Hey Blender Bob here. This is a re-release of 3 clips that I did last fall. Had to pull them off because of some permission issues. It's been fixed. Now I'm allowed to show you the clips, but I'm not allowed to tell you which movie it's from, so don't ask. Alright, so it was supposed to be a 4th-part series. The last one was actually the opening shot with the big title in it, so I cannot show it to you, obviously. So we're just going to do 3 parts. And I put them all together in one clip, so, you know, instead of releasing it 3 times. Okay, so the first part is a winter rising shot, means it's been shot in summer and we need it to make it look like it's winter. So this is the shot. We need to make frosted grass everywhere. You can see that they put some stuff here, some white stuff on the grass, but not under the actor. Why? I don't know, maybe this stuff is toxic or it stains or it stinks or it doesn't matter. Anyway, tracking gave me this nice ground here. The ground is generated by the tracking software, and all I needed to do is to add some grass. So what I did is use a plugin called Real Grass. I chose 3 different kinds of grasses that I mixed together to get the look similar to the plate. Now let me show you how it works. Very simple to use here. You select your ground and then you just click on the little icon so you can pick which kind of grass you want. You also have some choices for weeds, but we'll go back to grass because this is what we're interested in. So let's pick one of them. Let's take this one. And you click the add button to add your grass. Then you can play with the number of grass and the scale that you want. So we put more, let's say 3000. Here we go. And now we have a lot of beautiful grass. Now we want to make it frosty, so what we're going to do is just modify the original shader. We're going to create a principal shader, very simple one. Then we're going to create a geometry node, and we're going to connect the normal into a separate XYZ node. And then we're going to mix this with a mix shader. So mix shader. Okay, so the original one, you put it at the bottom here, and then the one you want to put on top is going to be our BSDF that we just created. And for the factor, we're going to use the Z, which is the Z-axis. It represents the Z-axis. So that means that the more the object is oriented with the Z-axis, the more it's going to get white. Just to make sure, we're going to assign the same shader on a sphere. So we're just going to copy the shader material. And you can see, oops, it's actually inverted. It has the white at the bottom and the green on top. So what we're going to do is just add an invert node after the separate X, Y, Z. And that's going to fix the problem. And that's pretty much it. The only thing left I had to do was to change the shader on the ground plane to make it more grass-like, and the rest is all compositing magic. So this is the render from Blender. Obviously a mask was done in compositing to keep only what's needed. And this is the final result, and as you can see, it's totally seamless. Now, it's not like the guys in compositing just took my stuff, they slam it on top of the plate, and a little bit of roto, a little bit of color correction, and they're done. No, it's more complicated than that. They actually use my stuff to enhance the plate so that they get a frosty look and keep the detail of the original grass that was there to begin with. The compositing team and the 3D team really need to work together to make this work properly. You can use the exact same technique to add a layer of dust on top of objects. Hey, you got a banana in your hair. What? You got a banana in your hair. What? You got a banana in your hair. Speak louder, I got a banana in my ear. Hey Blender Bob here, happy Halloween! Welcome to part 2 out of 4 in this series of the VFX of the movie. Today we're gonna burn some rubber. Very simple setup here. The road has been provided by the tracking department. You have a domain box and an emitter on the wheels, and that's it. As you can see at the beginning, the car tracking doesn't match at all, but it doesn't matter because the smoke starts right after this. And I manually keyframed the tires to match the plate. I did this until I reached the right position. It's called cheating, I'm really good at it, but never on my wife. For the position of the car, the tracking department gave me a locator, which is kind of like a cross empty, and I parented the car to this empty so that the car moves at the exact same position. All I needed to do was to adjust the rotation of the car to match the plate. You can see the orange parts here. These are the emitters that will emit the smoke, so it's just parented to the wheels so they can move together. Now it looks like there's a ton of smoke here, but never look at it like this, always look at it in the final render to get a good idea of what it really looks like. Now for the geometry and the ground, you want to make sure you turn on hold out. What it's going to do is it's going to create like a hole in the smoke because we don't want the smoke to go through the car, we just want it to appear once it's out of the car. And you can see here from the side view, the smoke goes under the ground, so when you put the ground as hold out, it's going to cut all the smoke that goes under the ground. I also added 4 point lights where the tail lights are so that it can illuminate the smoke. And I added a few lights for the street lights. This is a pre-com script that I give to compositors. It's just to assemble the elements together. You can see the smoke here is cut on the ground, and that's because we put the holdout on the ground. The model I had of the car didn't match exactly the real car, so sometimes I ran into issues like this where I got a mismatch. Easy fix, I just use a node for painting and I just blur the edges until we don't see it anymore. Here we go. So once it's assembled, it's easy to dial in the amount of smoke that you want in the scene. And this is the final script. You can see it's much more complicated than what I gave them. And oh, this is my stuff here, this little whoop, and it's gone already. And now let me show you why it's so complicated. On the left is the original plate and on the right is the final comp. You can see that blue thing here that's been removed. The entire bridge is gone. It disappeared by magic, actually compositing magic. And you can see that the yellow lines have been added in the street too. They just appeared by magic, compositing magic. See, right there. Pretty cool, huh? And they also tweaked the smoke, the intensity, the color, and all this stuff. So yeah, the smoke was done in Blender on a Disney movie. Oh, okay. Alright, so next week we'll... Alright, so you may think that was no big deal, it's just some smoke behind a car. Well, stay tuned because next week and the week after we're gonna get into the very, very cool stuff. Live long and prosper, my young Padawans. What? What? Hey, Blended Bob here. Welcome to the third part of this series on the VFX of the movie. Let's go right away with the simple question. What is wrong with this picture? I'll let it run a few times so you can familiarize yourself with it. Okay, come on. What is wrong with it? Take a good look. Cannot find it? Keep looking. No idea, huh? Well, the reason is because we already fixed it. Now here's the original. So now it's clear that what we did was to remove a pimple on the singer's face. Oh yeah, and that big crazy table in the middle of the foreground. So your first question is probably, why is there a table there? Why didn't they just remove it? Well, you see the rails on the table? The camera actually moves on these rails, and they cannot be removed. And we didn't only have one shot, we had a few shots in this angle. No matter what the reason, we had to remove it. Here are the challenges we had to deal with. At Real by Fake, we are equipped with a camera motion control system, so we could redo the camera movement. The problem is time and budget, and also lighting. You can see here the highlights on the guy here from the big spot in the back. It makes a highlights on the hair everywhere. There's also another moving light in the front here, and it creates interactive light on the characters. These are all things we would have to reproduce if we had to reshoot. You see the highlights here? So all things considered, it would be very difficult to do a reshoot and match the fog, the lights, and everything. Obviously we would have the same challenges in 3D, but it's much more easier to control, and also much cheaper and faster. So the first step is to get CG characters. For that we use the software called Anima. It's a cheap software, it's like $380, and you can set up paths where people can walk, and there's a lot of walk cycles and run cycles, and you know, just decide where you want your path to go. The interface is kind of weird, but you know, it works, it can do the job. And you can decide which character you want. There's a bunch of them, you can buy some too. If you put them on a path, they will automatically follow the path. Now, if you just take someone and you put it in the center of nowhere like this, well, the guy won't do anything. He will just stay there and just, you know, chill. As you can see now, he has a weird position. I don't know why his head is tilted like this, but it's okay because we can change his parameters. So we're going to select the guy and just go into idle clips and change it to one of the other choices. Now, if I press play, you can see what the guy is doing now is just waiting and looking left and right. So let's drop in a few more characters. This old guy here and idle clip. Let's try something else. And then another one, maybe here we go. This one here. So that's how I did the crowd here. I just selected a bunch of people and added them in my scene. And now they just wait like a bunch of idiots while the naked people walk in the back. To import them into Blender, you need to export them in Collada. But it will only connect the diffuse color. You will have to connect the normal map manually, which is a big pain. Okay, back in familiar territory, I had to set up my group in 3 parts, front, middle, and back, because otherwise it was too heavy to render because of the hair. I set up each light on a different render layer, so I had the backlight, I had the front light, and I had the spotlight. This way I could adjust all the lights in compositing. You can see also I have a group called Invisible. These are these people here, these ghosts. And they are invisible because I need them to cast shadows on the characters and I need them to reflect the light. So you can see I just set them all to invisible for the camera. Camera rays visibility is off. So they do cast shadows and they do bounce the light, but we don't see them. You see, when I turn them off, the back here is not lit. But when I turn the collection back on, you will feel in the back here, you can see all the light reflecting. And if we take a look at the backlight here, you can see the shadows that are going to be cast here on the character. Right here. If I turn it off, again, no shadows and with shadows. Now we needed some hair on the character, and I never did hair before in Blender. I put an ad on Blender Artist, but all I found was cartoony hair, so I had to do it myself. So how do you do hair? You select your character, you make a duplicate of the character. You don't want to select polygons and do a duplicate and then extract or separate, because that may change the order of the polygons, and if you have an Alembic cache, it's not going to work. Make sure you click that little thing here so you can edit your character in the right position. So we duplicate the character. If you move it, whoa, it goes like this. That's not what we want. Make sure that you apply the armature before you do your changes. Now on the copy, we're going to extract the hair. Okay, now we need the hair to move with the original character. So what we're going to do, it's really simple. We're going to select the hair and we're going to add a surface deform modifier. Then select the woman and just bind the geometry. Click and bind. This kind of stuff is so easy to do in Blender. I love Blender. Okay, now let's add some hair. We take the scalp, we add a particle system on it, and it's going to be a hair system. Now I don't know why by default the hair length is 4 meters long. Who has 4 meter long hair? I never had 4 meters long hair. This is the longest I ever had in my life. Okay, so I won't do a hair tutorial here because there are tons of parameters and there's a lot of good tutorials on the internet you can find for hair. So you play around, you comb the hair, you trim the hair, you cut the hair, you move the hair, and after a while you get a very nice result. Nope, not there yet. Let's keep going. It's a lot of trial and error, but you know, at the end of the day I ended up doing 24 haircuts for all my crowd and it worked pretty well. Okay, final touches here and I'm pretty much good to go. Okay, so this is the final result for all these characters here. They don't look that good if you look at it closely, but it doesn't matter because we know that everything's going to be blurry and foggy and motion blurred and everything. So it's going to work. Trust me, it's going to work. Well, I know because I did the shot. All the magic happens in Nuke. Here you can see all the render passes. As I said, I needed to do a front, a back, and a middle part here that are combined together and I get the entire group. So this is for the spotlight. I had to do the same thing for the front light and for the backlight. The next step is to match the fog, and this is done by lifting the blacks. And that was done automatically by sampling a part of the image, and whatever light changes that would happen on the plate, it would reflect automatically on the CG part. The compositor then used Cryptomatte to adjust every character as needed. So if a shirt is too bright, if the hair is the wrong color or whatever, everything could be adjusted with the Cryptomatte. Again, you can find good Cryptomatte tutorials on the internet. Cryptomatte is compositor's best friend, and this is hard to pronounce, compositor's best friend when it's time. God, not a good day. My throat hurts and I keep coughing. No, it's not COVID. Okay, so what I'm saying is Cryptomatte allows you to make some color changes on a per object or per shader basis. It's really cool. After this, lens flares and grain and depth of field is added, so now you see the crowd looks photoreal. And at the end you add the foreground characters that were rotoed from the original plate. We had about 6 shots from this angle, so the idea is to create one master scene with all the cameras in it, so that this way you have the same lighting setup, the same character setup. If you change one character, it's going to change in all of them. So once the first shot is done, it's trivial to do the other ones. We also had a few shots with a reverse angle, so we had this crowd here of people. A lot of them are repeating. It doesn't matter. No hair here. It wasn't needed because this is what it looks like. Actually, you can see it's very blurry, the characters we needed to add. So we rendered this with the right lighting and just come them in the shot. The biggest part was actually to roto the real people in the back to integrate the CG ones. And this is what it looks like once it's composited. And if you take a good look, there's a rack focus on the shot. The focus goes from the guy to the crowd. So sometimes you get VFX shots and you wonder, how the hell am I going to pull it off? Well, you just go one step at a time and you need to think about how you're going to make it. What are the steps that you need to do? Okay, I need crowd, but then I need hair. How am I going to do the hair? And then I need this and I need that, and you combine it all together to get a final product. But you need to understand that it doesn't matter if your model is perfect, your textures are perfect, your lighting is perfect. If the compositing is not at the same level, it's not going to work. It's 50% CG, 50% compositing.